I'm feeling super fantastic, awesome. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Hi everyone, it's Brian Franks. Welcome, and I hope you're having a super fantastic, awesome day. This is I'm Feeling Super Fantastic Awesome. I have a very special guest today, Nikki Rietti. Nikki is not only an outstanding realtor within the community of South Florida, but she has a lot of different things that she does, positivity, Parkland Chamber of Commerce, and on the board. We'll get into those discussions, find out where she gets her positive energy from. So welcome, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing some time with me today. It's so important for me to reach out to other people who I feel are like in my positive 100 and get to know them a little bit more, find out where they get their energy from, what makes positivity so important in their life. So let's start off with just some basic things. Were you always a positive person? Was it something as a child that you were known for, or is it something that you had to evolve to? Give me a little bit.
It depends on who you ask.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I would say, I think I'm the youngest of 7 kids. So my brothers and sisters would tell you I was a little bit loved, much,
Yeah.
otherwise known as spoiled.
Yeah.
But I think I was always I always say I'm the youngest of 7, but I'm the boss of all of them. And I think I was always the one that, I would, if they went on trips, I would put make welcome posters for when they get home. I don't know if I would say I was always positive, but I certainly became so.
Well, I think, making welcome posters as a sibling is not a common thing. So, I get how people would start getting that impression of you. When you look back on the development, self-growth, all of those things, are there any moments within your life that you were pivoting, you had a fork in the road, you had to pick a direction to go, and you chose the path of positivity, or you chose the path of making either a tragic situation or a difficult situation a learning lesson, something to grow from? So is there anything that you could share with us today, just to kind of give us an idea?
Sure. I will tell you that I think growing up, my family experienced a lot of what I would say are tragic situations. My eldest sister had polio. She developed polio within a year of being born. I had a brother who had a mental illness and committed suicide when I was 16 years old. And then 2 years later, my sister was in a life-changing car accident, had brain damage, never fully recovered.
Wow.
She finally passed away in 2012. So I think that the thing that was defining for me and for, I would say, all of my brothers and sisters is my parents are the ones that kept us going, because this was a situation where within a short time after getting married, they just kept having one thing after another.
Yeah.
They had 7 kids, and they taught all of us from the very beginning, have faith and keep going.
Yeah.
So their resilience and their hope and their love and our home was always filled with laughter.
Yeah.
Despite problems. So I think we all learned that growing up. And then personally, I would say I moved here in my 30s.
But you're originally from
Jamaica.
Jamaica, yes.
So I moved here in my 30s, new realtor, new to the area. I had to learn everything from scratch, meet people from scratch. And it took me a long time to get into the groove of things.
Yeah.
I would also say I would never define myself as a relaxed person.
Okay.
So I don't relax very easily. So one of the things that I started to do, like everyone else, was I would drink in social situations.
Right.
I got to a place where I realized that what was once a social habit had taken over my life.
Yeah.
And I had to look long and hard at myself, face the failure of that, and turn away from it. And I decided it was not going to define me for the rest of my life. So I had to make some changes, and I decided to do it. I won't tell you that it was an easy process or that it was a joyful process, I should say, because you're looking at failure. But I had to find joy in the process. I had to find my hope and find my faith and find my faith in myself, that I was actually making progress and moving forward. And I would tell you that probably is my greatest defining moment.
Yeah, so, I think we're all impacted by those decisions. You know,
Right.
alcohol consumption is something that I was, very big at, especially in my younger ages and all of that stuff. When my son was born, I waned off greatly. So I promised myself I'd never be drunk in front of him.
Right.
He's going to be 18 this year. But only recently, over the last year, I've just cut off altogether for health purposes. And to be frank with you, I don't miss it.
I agree.
So it's great. And when it comes down to that moment, and I have a few friends that have gone through situations like yours, who made a pivotal choice and said, what direction do I want to go?
Right.
What's more important to me? And they're finding their way through, or just amazing ambassadors to life is really what people become in circumstances like that, where they figure out, like, oh, I was using this as a subsidy to get joy out of life, and now I found joy out of life from just living.
Right. It's alcohol is a form of escapism,
Yeah.
right? It's a tool. It's a crutch to help us through moments that we don't know how to cope with.
Yeah.
I will tell you that if I could share anything with people about this subject, it is that most of us drink more than we think we do.
Yeah.
And I think that people need to consider that the moment you feel like you need a drink in order to relax, or you need a drink in order to enjoy a social situation, to sort of calm the rough edges and the nerves,
Right.
to enjoy something socially, you may want to consider that it has started to become a coping mechanism.
Right.
It's not the same for everybody, and I certainly don't mean to say that everybody should stop drinking.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of us that are drinking more than we should, and we
Yeah.
need to face it. I would also say that it was one of the greatest challenges that I had after the fact was figuring out if I could have fun again, and if I would be fun again.
Right.
And I had a lot of people who unknowingly were not supportive to the process, right?
Wow.
So you go out and people are like, come on, you can have one drink.
Yeah.
You're being too much. You're being too ridiculous.
Yeah.
When really, no, I shouldn't have.
Right.
I shouldn't. So no, I think the truth is I don't miss it. Anytime I have challenging situations, it's certainly not something I think of at the moment. And the greatest reason for that for me is I don't like the person it makes me become.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be that person.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
Now, going back to and my condolences for your family tragedies. I lost my brother to alcoholism, so that's always been a seed in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I use it as one of the pivoted moments in my life where I was partying a lot when I first got into the mortgage business.
Right.
I was doing all the social gatherings. I was doing the happy hours, the hay rides, the other social events, all encompassed around alcohol. And I would be on Thursday nights out of shape, coming in on Fridays.
Right.
Now, in my mindset, I would actually go in. I'd work really hard Monday through Thursday so I could party on Thursday night and not have to work on Friday.
Right.
So my leadership team came in and said, "No, you got to change."
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you mean? I got all my work done on Thursday?" And I was like, "Yeah, but the impact of everybody else on Friday is very negative because I worked in a big corporate environment."
Right.
So I was coming in, not probably smelling a little bit of the night before, and bloodshot eyes, and just not working efficiently or not working at all,
Right.
and being a distraction. And I circled back to where my brother was in his life. He was my older brother. I'm on the lower end of the spectrum of 6 myself. I'm second to last. I wasn't the baby, but
Baby's real.
yeah. But to that day, when I made that pivotal change within my work environment, I thank my brother Mike all the time
Right.
for that. So God rest his soul.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how tragedy can really lead to positive changes in our lives.
100%. 100%.
Because you can't avoid the tragedies. These are circumstances that just happen.
Brian, one of the things I tell people when I try to describe you, if I can say this, is people say, I've told a couple of people we were going to be meeting today, and they're like, "Who's that?" and I keep saying, Brian's a friend, he's a lender in our office, and he's thriving through cancer. And they are like, what do you mean by that? And I said, he's the only person I know. He has shown up for work every day. He has been a smiling face in the face of what has to be a terribly difficult situation. I know there are days when he doesn't feel it, but he comes in and he thrives through it. And that is a big, huge testament to you. And the power of positive thinking and positive energy, right?
Yeah.
In dealing with tough situations. And the truth is, we all have choices to make.
Yeah.
You're either going to fall apart, or you're going to find a way to pick yourself up. And the way to find yourself able to get up is through hope and positivity.
Yeah.
Let's face it. And faith. I'm a big believer in that.
I'm humbled, but I love that saying, thriving through. Because I had people say to me, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, well, it's not something you did, and I understand the empathy of it. But, you have people who are going through life who lost a limb, or going through life who, and other tragedies and so on and so forth. And when I go in for treatment, I always go in with a mindset, I'm going to be walking past and interacting with people that are much worse off than I am. I'm blessed to be as healthy as I am, thriving through cancer as I've been.
That'll go on your board next.
You can go on my board
right,
next.
that'll be your tagline.
Yeah, but it is a mindset. It's a mindset. I go back to the story when I first got diagnosed from the doctor. My wife was with me, and I wasn't fazed by that at all when they told me, because my mind really went back to my life,
right,
and how many great things happened within my life, and I was just very grateful for everything and where I was in life. And I said, you know what? Not a lot of people get to live this life the way I've been able to do it. And I was very, very calm. And now, then I look at my wife, and then I see the scare in her eyes, and this is a big challenge for her. So I went to, being a husband, a caring husband and father, I went to thinking about how they impacted them.
Right.
I say to people all the time, I say to my wife all the time, I say, I don't carry the burden of cancer. The people who live on after the tragedy carry the burden of that tragedy.
Right.
So I don't want the focus to be on me. I want the focus to be on them. So I spend every waking moment trying to figure out how we make their lives better, make the environment around them better, all of those things. Now, I don't plan on, going away anytime soon. No,
right.
But in the interim, I don't have that choice. It's not on me.
Right.
God makes that decision on when. And until then, I want to make every moment a moment that people would want to share with somebody else and say, I knew this person when, and it was a great experience.
And you're doing that right now with this podcast. Let's face it, right? I think it's amazing.
So I want to pivot a little bit, because you do so many things. And again, one of the things I got from my friend Ruth is she did a class recently, and it was one of the things that she said was like a positive 100. These are people who are like 100 people in your life that just emanate positivity, and you came to mind. So that's why I wanted to have you on as a guest. You do a lot of different things. You're a board member on the Parkland Chamber of Commerce.
Go Chamber.
Yeah.
Go Parkland Chamber.
I see you very health oriented, working out, so on and so forth. So you're doing it, and of course you're very great at real estate as well.
Thank you.
You're a champion of the market. And like anything else, mortgage and real estate go hand in hand, and we're always on a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very few champions in real estate. And a champion in real estate, in my mind, is a person doesn't rely on what the market is dictating in order to achieve success. In other words, whatever the market is doing, you find a way to be successful in that market.
Right.
So as you go about and you deal with the changes in the market, whether it's an inventory change or high interest rates and buyers are sitting on the sideline, sellers thinking that their value is what it was at the peak of the market, and they're reluctant to understand that they're not buying their own home. It's the buyers who set the market. It's not the sellers who set the market.
Right.
What are the things that you've developed in a skill set to navigate these hills and valleys in the real estate market that made you consistently and continually successful?
Well, the mindset's a big one, right? You have to keep the mindset of being positive. That's the first thing. I think the resilience that my parents taught me is also a very strong foundation for it, because you're going to go through ups and downs in life, and you have to learn to keep going.
Yeah.
So that is the thing I tell people all the time: keep going.
Yeah.
This is not the time to bury your head under the sand. Don't go find a new career unless you should, because sadly there are some people that should.
Yeah.
But don't go find a new career. Dig your heels in. One of the things that I learned is when you don't know what to do, when things seem they're most hopeless. In business sometimes, because as realtors sometimes you don't know where your next deal is coming from, especially in an environment where the market is in shift mode, which we are now, right? We're not really one or the other. We're like this. Nobody really knows where we are. When you're in situations like that, the best course of action is to take massive action. So don't stop what you're doing. And I learned this actually when the market crashed in 2008. The people who are the most successful today are the ones who kept taking massive action throughout that entire time. They didn't take their eye off the wheel. They just kept going, doing the same foundational tasks over and over and over again. So take massive action, keep going, don't give up, go out, have conversations with people. The market isn't shift because people are scared. People don't know what's happening. What hasn't changed is that people need to move.
Right.
People need to move because they're getting married. They're having babies and they need more room, or they need to downsize, or they're relocating for work. People need to move. The conversations that we need to have are conversations centered around what type of move should you be making now? Do you go and rent a home? Do you buy a home? Do you sell your home? Do you upsize, downsize? What do you need to do? As realtors, I think I never support the thought of just being like, oh, everything's wonderful, and creating like this false picture of everything being super positive. You need to give people facts, but you need to give people facts in a way that is not hopeless. And that starts with you not being hopeless, right? There are reasons, like everything else, there are reasons why it's a good time for you to make a move, and there are reasons why it might not be. And conversations as a realtor, having open conversations where you're not just trying to direct people to what you want, but you're actually listening to what they need, that's where your power is. You really help people to figure out what's their next best step.
I love that. It's something that I've actually received some accolades on from clients and partners, referral partners alike, because again, going about what we do, there's plenty of people in our line of work that do it for their own self-gratification.
100%, yes.
And the people who last the longest are doing it for the wellness of others. I joke that I've talked more people out of refinancing than I've talked about the value of refinancing. Now that said, there's opportunities in every environment, and you mentioned a few of people that have historic changes within their family dynamics or within their job or something like that require change. And the best environment we could put ourselves in is to make sure that we stay in constant contact with all of those people. So it's a high recommendation of everybody, whether they're on the mortgage side or the buyer side, always stay in contact. But also think outside the box.
Right.
Because people are coming to you, for an example, and they reach out to you and say, is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy? They're asking that question. And this comes back to my call center days where people were calling and asking about a refinance, and the interest rates weren't much different than where most people were at that time, kind of similar to where we're at right now. And you know, my mindset to my sales team, I would always ask is, well, did you find out the reason why they called?
Right.
You know, and what do you mean the reason? Again, they asked what your interest rate was, and that wasn't the reason why they called.
Right.
People are not calling you to find out what the interest rate is. They're calling you to find out how to solve the problem that they're in.
Absolutely.
So it's up to us. We kind of almost, we have to have that social hat or that what am I trying to think of? Your a therapist hat.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And you have to dive a little deeper.
You have
What
to listen.
What are the struggles?
Yeah.
What are the things that are important to you? What's going on in your life? And then using our experiences, we can provide them a few lanes.
I will share with you that I remember several years ago, I met a couple, young couple. They had just gotten married. They wanted to buy their first home, and they told me what their criteria was. I sent them a list of homes, and they sent me back a list of homes that they wanted to see. So we're out home shopping. They fall in love with a house, and as we're sitting discussing how offers work, it became clear to me that they had been pre-approved.
Mhm.
They were super excited about this house, but they had zero idea about what their payment was going to be.
Oh yeah, very common.
And when I asked them about their comfort zone for their payment, I realized that we were going to have a giant difference
Yeah.
between their expectation and what it was really going to be. And I had to have that conversation. I literally put all the papers away and I said, guys, we need to talk about payment, and we need to talk about what you can handle and what you're comfortable with.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, the wife wasn't working at the time. It was just the husband. And I talked them out of buying a house.
Yeah.
I talked them into waiting.
Yeah.
They're still my clients today,
Yeah.
because the reality is, if I had just sold them a house, they would have been in trouble. I'd never have heard from them again. I might be hiding from them at this point, right? And they would be in trouble. And why would I want to do that?
Right.
I always say that my very, very first client 22 years ago is still my client today.
Yeah.
My very first client,
That's awesome.
still my client today, because I'm honest and I care. And I have a couple of things that I say are my superpower, but caring about people is actually more about them than about myself,
Yeah.
is one of them.
I find a lot, and as I get to know all of my positive 100, and hopefully I'll grow to a positive 1,000.
Right?
But I find a lot that the mindset is about serving others,
Yes.
and that is so true that when you go, and I even talk about how I'm feeling super fantastic also came about. I just wanted to see how others would react to it.
Right.
And then people started smiling and lifting their head and engaging, and it was such a positive result that I was so excited to make people smile all day long
Right.
that it became a self-fulfilling gratitude for myself.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a purpose in which I wanted to do it, other
the
than just I
reward.
wanted to say the reward of that.
Yes. Yeah. I get it.
So, that is awesome, because I think, especially in our industry, because there's a lot of people that are in it for the wrong reason. I was at a great open house yesterday with another friend of mine, and we met some really good realtors and really sweet clients, and it was a busy open house. And then we met one realtor who didn't know who his client was, didn't know what they looked like, didn't know any details on it.
You're lucky
Came
they
in
came.
here and had all of this stuff, and we were just engaging with them, and I was just like, man, if I was on the real estate side, I would not be interested in working with this person on the other side,
Right.
because it is apparently, overly apparent, that they're doing it for themselves.
Right.
So you get that feeling.
I learned this phrase from a book I read a few years ago: serve regardless of opportunity. SRO.
Okay.
And it is like such a huge commitment to me now.
Yeah.
Serve regardless of opportunity. I put others before myself all the time. Why? Because things come back to me.
Yeah.
I'm very, very blessed
Yeah.
in so many ways. And that happens because I care. It's not about me. It's
Yeah.
about my client. It's
Yeah.
about the other person. It's about the chamber member who needs some support. I'm not going to take the benefit.
Oh.
If I can help someone else to achieve what they need to
Yeah.
achieve. So that is just the way I run my life at this point.
Well, you brought up the chamber, and I want to talk to you about the chamber because it's been a while since I've been in a chamber, and when I move and I relocate, I plan on diving back into that world because I did enjoy it.
Right.
I was a member of the chamber for Hollywood, and I was a member of the chamber for Weston, and each one is a little bit different.
Sure. And I think we met at the Weston Chamber.
Yes, we did meet at the
Yes.
Weston Chamber
Yeah.
originally.
Yes.
When you were
Yes.
joining the team in
Yeah.
our Weston office, I said, "Oh, I know you."
Yes.
What is it about chambers of commerce? I mean, now you're a board member, so you're heavily invested in it. What is it about the Chamber of Commerce platform that you enjoy so much?
Well, I think first of all, honestly, I think I'm a member of a very unique chamber. We are a smaller chamber. Parkland is a smaller town, right? And we like to keep that small hometown feel to the way we do everything. But we are a smaller chamber. We're not looking to be the biggest chamber with the most numbers, and we're looking to be a chamber that has an impact for the members,
Right.
that offers real impact for our members. So I think we consider ourselves more of a family than a chamber, which is a very powerful thing.
That's nice.
And everything that we do is an event where it's kind of like coming together with family. So because of that, the business that is passed is just a natural extension of that. It's not about, do we have people who come and they're looking for where is the referral coming from? I haven't gotten a referral. Sure. Or I don't get business from this group or that group. Sure. You're always going to have that.
Yeah.
But honestly, the people who thrive in our chamber are the people who treat it like a family because that's how we operate.
Yeah.
And because of that, doing business is just a natural extension of everything that we do.
Yeah. I love the use of the word family.
Yes.
Because that's how I treat my clients, that's how I treat my relationships, that's how I work out of the offices that I have, because I'm fully invested in the success of others. And much to your statement on the book, the thing that is really very key about that is I ask people all the time, work with me regardless of the fact that I'm in a transaction or not.
Right.
You need help. I have a
Right.
lot of experience. I can help you through
Right.
those circumstances. I want you to be successful. It's been a blessing because, again, people know that you're genuinely in there for them.
100%. And they remember that,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
It ends up coming back to you in the long run,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's not the reason why I do it, but people don't forget. People like people who treat them well
Yeah.
and make them feel important
Yeah.
and care.
Right.
And so it just happens to naturally come back to you anyway.
Yeah. So, want to get back to health.
Yes,
Obviously, it's a big part of my life now.
yes.
More so than ever. But what are the things from a health perspective when you're thinking about all the stuff you do? Right? I guess I see the workout posts that you do, which are always very impressive, very impressive. What gets you motivated? Like, I know there's days. There's days when it comes to being positive. There's days when it comes to being motivated to do what you have. You mentioned before we got onto the podcast routines.
Yes.
Tell me how you go about setting those. That's something that is a constant. I have to constantly work at it for myself.
Right.
So, give me a little bit about your situation, how you go about it, so I can learn a little bit myself and maybe structure my life a little bit better.
It's an ongoing process,
Yeah.
right? That's the first thing I'm going to say is a routine is a routine as long as you follow it. If you fall off, then you start from scratch sometimes.
Mhm.
So it's an ongoing process. But I think the greatest way that I can say that you find the foundation for it would be to figure out what you want.
Yeah.
I was actually at a women's empowerment event yesterday, and the speaker, who was incredible, Dr. Simona Alicia, she defines herself as a self-esteem doctor. She shared some affirming words that you should say to yourself, because I think the core of it is figuring out who you want to be as a person,
Yeah.
right? I've read many books on the subject, and I've learned about affirmations and setting the mindset as a part of developing the routine and sticking to the routine. And many people will tell you, you need to say, I am the type of person who, or I am the person, or I am the potential of the person. She used the words, I love the feeling of. So I actually went home yesterday and I wrote out my affirmations. I love the feeling of being someone who wakes up at 4:45 in the morning. I love the feeling of being a person who says my prayers and spends time reading scripture from 5 a.m. until 6 a.m. And I love the feeling of being a person who goes to the gym at 6 a.m. and gives my all on the floor.
Nice.
I love the feeling of being someone who gets home, spends time with my fur babies, and gets ready and is at my desk by 8:30 making calls.
Yeah.
I love the feeling of. I love the feeling of being someone who closes my office.
Yeah.
I use that, in quotation marks, at 7 so that I have time to spend with my family. Those words every day, when I wake up when the alarm goes off at 4:45, Brian, I don't want to get up.
Yeah.
Don't think that I'm not a morning person by any means stretch of the
Yeah.
imagination. But those words get me out of bed,
Right.
because I love the feeling of being the person who does it.
Right.
I don't necessarily love doing it,
Right.
but I love the feeling of being someone who does it.
There's a lot to be said when it comes to when you do things that you don't feel like doing.
Yes,
The overarching accomplishment is so much greater than doing things that you feel like doing.
100%.
You know, you come out of that and you're like, you know what, I didn't think I had it in me.
You don't. The things you don't feel like doing are the hard things.
Yeah.
So the power of accomplishing the hard things, especially at the first part of your day, sets you up for
Yeah.
winning for the rest of the day. To be honest with you, so I had to learn that.
Yeah.
I had to learn that, and I've invested in several tools, some of which I'll share. Dr. Simone Alicia, her book is one I would suggest. Look her up online. I also invested in The Miracle Morning. So I particularly encourage realtors or lenders to read the Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents, written by Hal Elrod and Michael Mayer. And it talks all about that, about being someone who had to learn how to become the best that they could be.
Mhm.
And it's about developing the morning routine. From there, I joined their Facebook group, the Generosity Generation. I've spent time doing an online program all throughout 2020. I think I've done 30 mornings now, about 5 times. The community, if you read the book Atomic Habits, it talks about several things, but one of them is the power of community, right? So the power of being in a community of people who are working on the same goal of developing routine and sticking to routine has been very powerful for me. I recommend all of those things as a way of getting it cemented in your life.
It is true that if you're surrounding yourself with like-motivated people,
Yes,
it's almost like an accountability partner.
yes,
But I love everything that you're saying. One of the things, I was just in Chicago. We had a retreat where our company brought Salesforce in from different segments, newer Salesforce, President's Club, Salesforce, and beyond. And we were going through, how do we double our business type of model? And there are so many great things. And it's not one path for everything, but what it was a collaboration of everybody that's saying, okay, these are all great things. And one of the things that was constant is the routine. Having a routine that you emulate over and over again, even on the times that you don't want to do it, that ultimately result in we call in the industry $500 an hour activities.
Right.
And a $500 an hour activity, if you add that up over the course of a year, is $1 million income.
correct.
So it was great. I mean, my book is full. So this morning was my first opportunity to get up and start my routine. So and I added, I did add a great gratitude journal, but I wasn't consistent with it.
Right.
I added, I'm doing a Bible in a Year podcast. that I'm
That's
listening to
awesome.
right now,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
awesome.
I'm doing the 1 year chronological Bible, and
Yeah.
I'm doing that with some friends
Yeah.
through the Bible app.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's Halo is a really cool app. If you haven't, if you want to get into it, it's a really cool app, and that's something I've been randomly. If I go on long trips, I'm just throwing that
Yeah.
on. So I might get maybe 1, 2, or 3, but I hadn't do it as a routine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your routine used to be get up in the morning, coffee, turn on TV, news,
Sure.
stuff like that. Just get completely distracted for 2 hours. You're like, where are these 2 hours go?
100%.
You know, so I wanted to, before I got into all those distractions, 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Just get these 1, 2, 3, 4
Right.
things started, and then
You're
Off to the
off
day.
to the day. One of the things that, well, first of all, TV, the news. Let's just briefly touch on the news.
Yeah.
Do you want to ruin your life? Keep watching the news.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that. All you get is negative energy.
yeah,
Less news, more life. Please, just live your life.
Yeah.
That's one. But as part of, you mentioned gratitude.
Mhm.
So my morning routine is based on, it's surrounded, or it's made up of my quiet time. Some people would say meditation, sitting in silence. I read scripture and pray. That's my first thing. Then I have my appreciation and affirmations. Appreciation is the gratitude.
yeah,
I've journaled them. I use an app called the Gratitude app. Gratitude, yeah, it's a great app. You can do everything through there. You can
Okay.
even create your vision board through there. I've done other ways of doing that, but I use it for my journaling of gratitude and keeping my affirmations in one place. And then visualization is another one. I was very excited. I made my
Vision board.
favorite vision board this year.
yeah,
And then exercise, reading, and scribing is the last one. It's called SAVERS is the acronym, and journaling, right? So I try to do that as a morning routine.
yeah,
But what I wanted to touch on, because you said today, so your routine in life starts with setting your intentions on a Sunday.
Yeah.
You have to start with setting up your week with the mindset that this is how you're going to live your week. You have to get that clear first, and you get ready for it.
Mhm.
One of the things that I learned in 30 Mornings was in order to have that kind of successful week on a Sunday, you need to look at the weather app
yeah,
and figure out, okay, what's the weather going to be this week? What am I wearing? And get all your clothes ready
okay.
so that you have all of the excuses or the things that would normally hold you back.
Yeah.
You eliminate them. You do your meal plan. You do your meal prep. All of those things. You get that all out of the way on a Sunday. Then, but the other one is that the power of the morning routine
Mhm.
starts the night before. It starts with what you do the night before, because
Yeah.
you're not going to be successful in the morning if you've gone to bed too late and if you haven't made certain preparations. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's helpful.
One of the what they call a chairman's club or people, they closed over $100 million in volume, like almost 200 loans.
Right.
But one of the things this one guy Al had said was he does a brain dump.
Yeah.
Like before he goes to sleep,
Right.
he says everything that's on his mind is like boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Whatever it's something he wants to do the next day, or whether it's something
Yeah.
that happened that day, just unloads everything.
Yep.
And that way he can, rest and sleep soundly, which I didn't add to my thing. But now that you bring it up, it might be something I have to.
I highly encourage it, and then you don't look at that until you're about, like, you get to your desk at 8:30
Yeah.
or whatever the time is that you determine. That's when you open that up.
Yeah. Not
Not
doing the
before
routine.
you've done
Yeah,
your morning
yeah,
routine, because
yeah.
then you go down the rabbit hole of whatever it was, right?
Right.
So get the routine out. You get your mindset right.
Yeah.
You get your positive energy. You center yourself, and then you open up your day. What's on the table?
I love it. We mentioned this a few times, and we'll probably close with this because, it's something I hear over and over and over again. That's positivity, success, health and wellness. All of that is a constant effort, a constant journey, a constant mindset development, something that you have to work on all the time. And I strongly believe that, even though I'm a little bit more scattered in how I go about things, that constant mindset of I have to end up in a place of positivity.
Right.
I might not start there. I might get pushed away from it for a period of time, but I have to end there.
Right.
What are the things? We talked about routines. We talked about that. But is there anything that we have left off the table that when things get sidetracked, right? Because routine's great in the beginning of the day, setting your day up and so on and so forth. But things go awry.
Yes.
A transaction's going south. A client that you thought was loyal to you wasn't.
Happens, unfortunately.
Friends that you thought were true to you,
Our family.
our family, did something that, hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You get bad news in health, you get bad
Yes.
news in work, you get bad news in this. We're constantly bombarded with opportunity for us to go away from positivity. What are the things that you've figured out to put yourself back aligned with that and end the opportunity in positivity?
That's a great question. And there are a few things. One of them is obviously fitness is a huge one. That's where I define it as going and leaving all of that negative energy on the gym mat, right?
Okay, yeah.
I take it all out there. I had one experience recently where I went in and the trainer I was working with at the time recognized that I was not in a good mood
Yeah.
and said, "You want a box?" And I went in and I said to him, if I start to cry, just keep going.
Yeah.
But I just laid it all out there,
Yeah.
right? So getting it out physically is a huge one. Praying it out is a huge one. And I'm a big believer of that. And if you're not a Christian as I am and you're a believer, whatever faith you are,
Yeah.
invest in that spiritual connection to help you through that negative feeling. Journaling, huge. I read a book recently that talked about riding the wave. Like one of the things, and this is where alcohol and other things come in, right?
Yeah.
When you're in the moment of something that's not going well, you want to figure out how are you going to cope with it, and you try to escape and distract yourself from the hurt of it and the pain of it or the fear. The book talked about riding the wave of the feeling. So you're embracing it, you're riding the wave, and if you can just get through the wave of it, you'll be on the other side of it
Yeah.
without having to invest in some negative way of coping with it. So I journal through the feeling, and it helps me through the wave, and by the time I'm finished, I feel better.
Yeah.
The other thing I do, honestly, help someone else or pray for them.
Yeah.
I remember once being at church, I was volunteering at the time, and I was having a very bad morning, and I was greeting people as they came in for service, and I was at the far door
Yeah.
by myself that day, and I'm sitting there in all of my hard feelings, and I said, well, I'm either going to give in to this or I'm going to focus on other people today. Let me not focus on this problem. Let me focus on other people.
Yes.
And everyone that walked through the door, I made sure I gave them my biggest smile, gave them my biggest greeting, and I prayed for them as they walked through.
Yeah.
And I prayed for everyone in my family. I prayed for every one of my friends. I prayed for everyone. By the time I walked out that day,
Yeah.
I was having one of my best days.
Yeah.
So just turning the attention, like instead of dwelling so much on what's happening to us and turning your attention to helping other people, sometimes is what you need to pull yourself out of it. And when you pull yourself out of it, generally speaking, you find a way to deal with the problem that you are facing in the first place.
So I two of those points are beautiful. I have a story where when I was first diagnosed, and I was going to my cousin's son's wedding.
Yes.
Up here in Palm Beach. And my sister came down, my other sister came down. So I had my two sisters, my mom, my wife, and myself, and we were all staying together. And I had already started in this positive journey where I was going to share with everybody. And I was doing the hat of the day. I was just going back with stories and telling stories of all these different things. And then, this community of people just started surrounding me and giving me hats. And so,
Yes.
so it was just, it was overwhelming and wonderful. And as I was sharing this journey, my sister turned to me and said, I just read this story, and it's about the buffalo versus the cattle. And when a big storm is approaching, the cattle runs away from the storm,
Right.
and the buffalo runs into the storm.
Yes.
And she's like, "You're a buffalo."
Right.
And it's like, you're not trying to run away from it. You ran head first into it because you knew if you go into that storm that you're going to get to the other side faster than if
Right.
you're running away from the
Right.
storm, and then you're going to be in the storm a lot longer.
And it doesn't mean it's reckless behavior, right? Because you can put your head down
Yeah,
and just keep going,
right.
right?
Right.
So that you're going through with power
Yeah.
and focusing on your purpose.
But there's so much truth in that because these are little moments.
Yes.
I mean, there's very little things that are I mean, there's things physically and stuff like that that could be long things, but how you handle them
Yes.
are little moments.
Yes.
And, everybody who figures out that those little moments pass, and then you find a way through, are the happiest people that I know.
Agreed.
And then the other thing that you had said, and which I thought was powerful, is the ability to focus your energy on others to help you get through some of the challenges. And I am, and you already know this,
Yes.
I am like the strongest believer in that.
Right.
Hence, when people are always asking me, "Brian, I'm feeling super fantastic, awesome," and how are you feeling? I said, "I'm feeling super fantastic, awesome." Probably not.
Right.
Um,
Right.
But they smile because they're worried about me, and I gave them a reason to focus on something of
Right.
positive energy.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I do feel what I manifested in that moment.
Right.
Because I count how many people I made happy. I count how many people I helped. I count how many people.
Yeah.
So I count how many blessings that I was able to be part of. So really, really great. I mean, I love this insight. You've been wonderful. And again, I learned so much from these interactions, and everybody is so unique and powerful. And I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Seriously, the inspiration that I learned. Listen, none of us expect to be given the news that we have cancer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It comes out of left field
Yeah.
for everyone.
Right.
And it could happen to me tomorrow. And I recognize that.
Yeah.
My hope is that I would thrive through it like you are.
Wow.
You are my inspiration for that, honestly.
I was very, very, I'm grateful and very humbled by that. But I'll leave you with this, for joining me on this podcast. I provided her with the
Nice,
super
Jack.
fantastic, awesome coffee mugs to start your day.
Coffee comes
coffee
from
or
heaven.
tea.
Yes.
Yeah, coffee or tea, whatever your preference is. And then a super fantastic, awesome T-shirt. You're officially a member of Team SFA.
I'm excited.
And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I look forward
Thanks
to
for having
many
me.
more engagements and learning from you and watching your positive journey. And I wish you a blessed day.
You're the best, Brian. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and thanks for everything.
All right. Bye now.
Bye, guys.
Feeling super